Chief Raymond Okafor was a name that echoed across the country like thunder. Wherever his name was mentioned, people spoke with admiration, envy, or disbelief. He owned luxurious mansions scattered across major cities, dozens of fuel stations, prestigious schools, transport companies, factories, shopping complexes, and countless investments that generated wealth beyond imagination. Despite possessing more money than he could ever spend, Raymond remained disciplined. He often told people, riches are meaningless without responsibility. He had 3 wives, whom he treated with fairness and dignity. Unlike many wealthy men whose homes were filled with jealousy and rivalry, Raymond ensured peace ruled his household. Every wife had her own beautiful residence within the enormous estate, and each received equal attention, gifts, and privileges. According to his personal wish, every wife gave birth to 3 children, making 9 children in total. The family lacked absolutely nothing. The children attended the finest schools, traveled around the world, and enjoyed every comfort wealth could provide. Yet there was one thing that made people respect Raymond even more. He never accepted scholarships for any of his children. Whenever schools, organizations, or government agencies offered educational grants, he politely declined. Scholarships belonged to the poor, the fatherless, and those struggling to survive, and he would always say, "I am alive and capable of caring for my children." His words earned him admiration from many people. As years passed, the children matured into remarkable adults. The oldest was 35 years old, while the youngest had already completed university. The sons were handsome, confident, and successful. The daughters possessed extraordinary beauty that often left visitors speechless. Entering Raymond's compound for the first time was an unforgettable experience. Luxury cars lined the massive driveway. Expensive vehicles worth fortunes sat beneath elegant canopies. Often, visitors would see the billionaire's children sitting together on those cars, laughing, joking, and discussing life. Their appearance alone could intimidate guests. Some visitors lost confidence before even reaching the main entrance. However, beneath the admiration and glamour, a strange rumor followed the family everywhere. People whispered that Raymond's wealth was connected to one terrifying condition. According to the rumor, none of his daughters could marry, become pregnant, or have children. Most people dismissed the story as foolish gossip. Unfortunately, they were about to discover that some rumors carried deadly truths. For many years, the rumors surrounding Chief Raymond Okafor's family remained nothing more than a mysterious tale told in markets, offices, and social gatherings. People whispered about it, laughed about it, and eventually forgot about it. After all, Raymond's household appeared perfect. His sons were building successful careers. His daughters were educated, elegant, and admired by many wealthy suitors. The family continued to enjoy prosperity that seemed untouchable. But unknown to everyone, Chief Raymond carried a burden that never allowed him to sleep peacefully. Every night, after the laughter had faded and the compound had grown silent, he would sit alone in his private study, staring at old documents hidden inside a locked cabinet. Inside that cabinet was a secret that could destroy everything. For decades, he had protected that secret from his wives and children. Not even his most trusted associates knew the truth. Among Raymond's children, one daughter occupied a special place in his heart. Her name was Vanessa. She was intelligent, kind-hearted, respectful, and exceptionally beautiful. Unlike some wealthy children who looked down on ordinary people, Vanessa treated everyone with dignity. Workers on the estate adored her. Security guards smiled whenever she greeted them. Even market women near one of the family businesses often prayed for her success. Raymond loved all his children, but Vanessa reminded him of the innocence he once possessed before wealth changed his life. Unfortunately, destiny had already chosen her. One afternoon, Vanessa arrived at her father's mansion looking unusually nervous. Her face appeared pale. Her hands trembled. Raymond immediately noticed something was wrong. "My daughter, what troubles you?" he asked gently. Vanessa lowered her eyes. For several seconds she could not speak. The silence made Raymond uncomfortable. Then finally she gathered enough courage. "Dad, I need to tell you something." A strange fear suddenly gripped Raymond's chest. "What is it?" he asked. Tears formed in Vanessa's eyes. "I'm pregnant." The words struck him like lightning. For a moment, the billionaire froze. His breathing stopped, his vision blurred. The room became silent except for the loud pounding of his heart. "No," he whispered. Vanessa began crying. The confession spread through the family like wildfire. Within hours, the entire household was discussing the shocking news. The wives were stunned. The brothers were confused. Relatives began making phone calls. Yet none of them understood why Raymond's reaction seemed far more terrifying than the pregnancy itself. As everyone celebrated the coming child, Raymond locked himself inside his study. There, surrounded by darkness, he opened the cabinet he had avoided for years. Looking at the contents inside, tears rolled down his cheeks. For the first time in decades, the mighty billionaire was afraid. Because he knew something his family did not, and the countdown to his destruction had already begun. The news of Vanessa's pregnancy spread beyond the walls of the Okafor estate within days. Newspapers did not carry the story, but gossip traveled faster than headlines. Business partners whispered about it. Neighbors discussed it. Social circles that once envied the billionaire's perfect family suddenly had something scandalous to talk about. Inside the mansion, tension hung heavily in the air. Chief Raymond Okafor barely ate. He spent long hours alone, avoiding conversations and ignoring meetings that normally demanded his attention. His wives were worried. His sons were confused. Only Vanessa knew the real reason for his distress. One evening, Raymond summoned her to his private lounge. The atmosphere felt unusually cold despite the expensive furnishings surrounding them. "Tell me about the man," Raymond said quietly. Vanessa swallowed nervously. "His name is Daniel." "Daniel who?" "Daniel Ease." Raymond stared at her. "What does he do?" "He's an architect." The billionaire's expression remained unreadable. "Is he wealthy?" Vanessa hesitated. "No, father." The answer seemed to ignite something inside him. "No?" Raymond repeated. "He has a good job," Vanessa quickly explained. "He's hardworking, responsible, and kind. But not wealthy." "No." For several moments, silence filled the room. Then Raymond rose from his chair and walked toward the large window overlooking the estate. Thousands of lights illuminated the magnificent compound. Everything he owned, everything he had built, everything he was about to lose. "I will not permit this marriage," he finally declared. Vanessa's eyes widened. "What?" "You heard me." Tears immediately formed in her eyes. "Father, I love him." "Love is not enough. Daniel is a good man." "I said no." His voice was firm. Vanessa could hardly believe what she was hearing. Throughout her life, Raymond had always encouraged his children to pursue happiness. He had never forced anyone into unwanted relationships. Why was he suddenly behaving differently? "Is it because he's poor?" she asked. Raymond remained silent. "Tell me the truth." The billionaire slowly turned toward her. "Compared to our family, yes, he is poor." The word shattered her heart. For the first time in her life, she saw disappointment in her father's eyes. But what Vanessa did not know was that wealth had nothing to do with Raymond's decision. Deep inside, he was fighting a terrifying secret, a secret that had haunted him for more than 35 years. That same night, after everyone had gone to bed, Raymond entered a hidden room beneath one of his properties. There, seated upon a massive throne, was the Grandmaster of the Brotherhood. The old man's eyes glowed beneath dim candlelight. Before Raymond could speak, the Grandmaster uttered chilling words. "The prophecy has begun." Raymond fell to his knees. "Please," he begged, "there must be another way." The old man shook his head. "The child growing inside your daughter has already awakened the covenant." And at that moment, Raymond realized that the nightmare he had feared for decades could no longer be stopped. Chief Raymond Okafor remained on his knees as the Grandmaster stared down at him from the ancient throne. The underground chamber felt colder than ever. Rows of candles flickered against stone walls covered with strange symbols. Shadows danced across the room like restless spirits. For the first time in many years, the billionaire who commanded industries, employed thousands of workers, and influenced powerful politicians felt completely helpless. "Grandmaster," Raymond pleaded, his voice trembling. "I have served faithfully for decades. I have fulfilled every obligation. Surely there is another solution." The old man sighed. There was always only one condition. Raymond lowered his head. His heart already knew what was coming. Many years earlier, when he had been a struggling young businessman drowning in debt, he had desperately searched for a way out. Every investment had failed. Banks rejected him. Friends abandoned him. Then he was introduced to the Brotherhood. The organization promised unimaginable wealth, influence, and success. At first, he refused, but poverty had pushed him to the edge. Eventually, he accepted their offer. The covenant was simple. His businesses would flourish beyond measure. His wealth would multiply for generations. His enemies would fail. But in return, none of his female children could ever bear a child. The day one became pregnant, the covenant would begin to collapse. The day a granddaughter or grandson was born through any of his daughters, his wealth would vanish. And at the exact moment of that birth, he would die. Back then, Raymond had been young and foolish. He never imagined the condition would become a reality. Yet now it stood before him like a death sentence. "Please," he begged again, "Vanessa is innocent." The Grandmaster nodded. "I know." "Then spare her. The covenant demands payment." Raymond's breathing became heavy. "What payment?" The old man's eyes narrowed. "The child must never be born." Raymond froze. The chamber became silent. Even the candle seemed motionless. "What are you saying?" he whispered. "The daughter must be sacrificed before delivery. Her death will preserve your fortune and extend your life." Raymond staggered backward in horror. "No. It is the only way. No." His voice echoed through the chamber. For years he had obeyed every instruction given by the Brotherhood. But this was different. Vanessa was not merely one of his children. She was the daughter who always remembered his birthday before everyone else, the daughter who sat beside him whenever he looked troubled, the daughter who still hugged him despite being an adult. The thought of losing her felt unbearable. The Grandmaster studied him carefully. "Then prepare yourself." Raymond looked up. "For what?" The old man's expression darkened. "For the price that comes when a father chooses love over wealth." As Raymond left the chamber that night, he knew his decision had already been made. He would never sacrifice Vanessa, even if it meant losing everything he had spent his entire life building, even if it meant paying with his own life. The night after his meeting with the Grandmaster, Chief Raymond Okafor did not return home immediately. Instead, his driver took him to a quiet office building on the outskirts of the city. It was nearly midnight. Most of the lights in the building were off, but one office remained illuminated. Inside waited Barrister Samuel Obi, Raymond's personal lawyer for over 20 years. The elderly attorney was surprised when Raymond entered. "Chief, at this hour?" Samuel asked. "Is everything all right?" Raymond forced a weak smile. "No, Samuel, everything is not all right." The lawyer immediately sensed the seriousness in his voice. For many years, he had watched Raymond face business crises, political battles, and economic downturns without fear. Yet tonight, the billionaire looked like a man carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Sit down," Raymond said. Samuel obeyed. For several moments, neither man spoke. Finally, Raymond slid a sealed envelope across the desk. "I need you to keep this safe." The lawyer frowned. "What is it?" "A letter." Samuel touched the envelope but did not open it. "What does it contain?" "The truth." The lawyer looked confused. Raymond leaned forward. "If anything happens to me, this letter must be read in front of my entire family." Samuel's eyes widened. "Chief, what exactly are you talking about?" Raymond stared at the floor. "I'm going to die." The words sent a chill through the room. "Please don't say such things." "I am serious." Samuel shook his head. "You are healthy. Your doctors recently cleared you." Raymond gave a sad laugh. "This death won't come from illness." The lawyer became even more puzzled. Before he could ask another question, Raymond handed him several documents. "My will." Samuel opened the file. Inside were detailed instructions regarding every company, school, fuel station, factory, and property belonging to the billionaire. The lawyer carefully examined the pages. Everything had already been divided. Nothing was left to chance. Each wife would receive specific assets. Every child would inherit designated businesses. Large sums were reserved for charity organizations, orphanages, and educational foundations. Samuel looked impressed. "You've thought of everything." Raymond nodded slowly. "No, I am trying to prevent what is coming." The lawyer's expression darkened. "What do you mean?" For a moment, Raymond considered revealing everything, but he stopped himself. No one would believe him. Instead, he simply said, "When the time comes, read the letter." Hours later, he left the office and returned home. As he entered the compound, he saw Vanessa sitting alone beneath a garden pavilion. Her pregnancy was becoming noticeable. When she saw him, she smiled. "Dad." That smile pierced his heart. Because for the first time since she was born, Raymond looked at his beloved daughter and wondered how many days he had left to spend with her. And somewhere in the darkness, unseen eyes were already watching and waiting for the child's arrival. After preparing his will and leaving the mysterious letter with Barrister Samuel Obi, Chief Raymond Okafor tried to return to his normal routine. But normal life no longer existed. Every sunrise reminded him that time was running out. Every glance at Vanessa's growing pregnancy felt like a clock ticking toward an unavoidable end. Weeks passed. The family gradually adjusted to the news of the coming baby. The initial shock faded, and excitement replaced fear. Raymond's wives began discussing baby clothes, nursery decorations, and possible names. His sons joked about becoming uncles. The atmosphere inside the estate became joyful. Everyone was celebrating, everyone except Raymond. Behind his forced smiles, he was silently preparing for death. One evening, he sat alone on the balcony of his mansion, watching the lights sparkle across his vast estate. From where he sat, he could see several luxury cars parked neatly in the compound. Laughter echoed through the night. His children were gathered together below. Some sat on the hoods of expensive vehicles. Others leaned against them while sharing stories and teasing one another. For a moment, Raymond smiled. The sight warmed his heart. This was exactly what he had always wanted. A united family, a peaceful home, children who loved one another despite having different mothers. He had spent years making sure jealousy never destroyed his household. Unfortunately, he knew that unity would not survive his absence. Deep inside, he feared what would happen after he was gone. Suddenly his phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unknown number. Raymond answered. "Hello." A familiar voice spoke. The Brotherhood has given you one final opportunity. It was the Grandmaster. Raymond's face hardened. I already made my choice. You still have time to reconsider? No. The old man sighed. Then your wealth will vanish. So be it. Your empire will collapse. So be it. Your family will suffer. Pain flashed across Raymond's face, yet his answer remained unchanged. So be it. The line went dead. That night, Raymond could not sleep. He wandered through the estate until he reached the private chapel he had built years earlier. Although many people knew him as a businessman, few knew that he often prayed there in secret. Kneeling alone, he bowed his head. For the first time in decades, tears flowed freely. He prayed not for wealth, not for power, not even for his life. He prayed for his children, especially Vanessa. Daughter, he whispered into the silence, I hope one day you understand why I chose you over everything else. Unknown to him, the date of the baby's birth had just been moved forward. The doctors had discovered a complication. Vanessa would need an emergency delivery sooner than expected. And with that announcement, Raymond's countdown became much shorter than anyone imagined. The announcement came unexpectedly. Vanessa had gone for a routine medical examination, expecting to return home within a few hours. Instead, her doctors discovered complications that required immediate attention. She would need to be admitted to the hospital. The baby could arrive much sooner than anticipated. When the news reached Chief Raymond Okafor, a cold wave swept through his body. For several seconds, he simply stared at the phone in silence. The day he had feared for decades was no longer approaching. It had arrived. Within hours, family members gathered at one of the most expensive private hospitals in the country. Vanessa was placed under constant observation while specialists monitored both mother and child. Everyone appeared concerned, everyone except Raymond. He appeared terrified. His wives noticed it. His sons noticed it. Even the nurses sensed something unusual about the billionaire's behavior. He kept checking his watch, again and again, almost as if he were counting down to something. Meanwhile, strange events began occurring across his business empire. At one of his largest fuel stations, a major fuel storage system unexpectedly malfunctioned, forcing operations to shut down. At one of his factories, several machines stopped working simultaneously without explanation. A foreign investor suddenly withdrew from a multi-million-dollar partnership. One of his schools received notice that a government contract would not be renewed. Managers from different companies began calling nonstop. Each report brought more bad news. Each update seemed worse than the last. By evening, panic was spreading among senior executives. No one could understand why so many disasters were happening at the same time. Inside the hospital, Raymond understood perfectly. The covenant was already breaking. The Brotherhood's promise was being withdrawn. Everything they had given him was being reclaimed. Yet he remained seated beside Vanessa's hospital bed. When she opened her eyes and saw him there, she smiled weakly. Dad. Raymond squeezed her hand. How are you feeling? Nervous. He nodded gently. That's normal. Vanessa looked at him carefully. You've been acting strange lately. He forced a smile. I'm just worried about you. She laughed softly. You worry too much. If only she knew. A few moments later, the doctor entered the room. His expression was serious. We need to prepare for delivery. The words hit Raymond like a hammer. Around him, family members became excited. His wives embraced one another. His sons celebrated. Everyone was preparing to welcome a new life. Only Raymond understood that another life was about to end. As nurses rushed Vanessa toward the delivery room, the billionaire quietly stepped into a nearby corridor. Then he removed a folded photograph from his pocket. It showed all 9 of his children standing beside him years earlier. Looking at it, tears filled his eyes. because deep within his heart, he knew he was seeing them as a father for the very last time. And somewhere far away, the Grandmaster of the Brotherhood smiled. The final hour had begun. The atmosphere inside the hospital became intense as doctors and nurses rushed through the maternity wing. Vanessa had gone into labor. Her contractions were becoming stronger. Medical equipment beeped steadily while specialists moved in and out of the delivery room. Outside, family members waited anxiously. Some prayed, others paced nervously. A few tried to distract themselves with conversations. Everyone was focused on the arrival of the baby. No one noticed that Chief Raymond Okafor had become unusually quiet. He sat alone at the far end of the corridor, staring into space. The noise around him seemed distant. His mind had already traveled back through the years. He remembered his childhood. He remembered hunger. He remembered sleeping in unfinished buildings and borrowing clothes because he could not afford his own. Then he remembered the day he joined the Brotherhood, the day he exchanged his future for success. At the time, the decision had seemed harmless. He had believed he would never have daughters. Even if he did, he assumed the condition would somehow never become a problem. Now he understood the true cost of foolish choices. A nurse suddenly rushed past him. Moments later, another followed. Raymond's heart sank. The delivery was progressing rapidly. At that exact moment, more bad news began arriving from his businesses. One of his largest companies experienced a financial collapse after several major accounts were frozen. 3 fuel stations reported mysterious fires that destroyed valuable equipment. A foreign bank suspended an important line of credit. Stock values connected to his investments plunged dramatically. Years of wealth were disappearing in a matter of hours. His phone continued vibrating with desperate calls. This time, he ignored them all. Money no longer mattered. A few minutes later, Barrister Samuel Obi arrived at the hospital. The lawyer approached Raymond carefully. "Chief." Raymond looked up. "You came." Samuel nodded. "I felt something was wrong." The billionaire smiled faintly. "You're a good friend." The lawyer sat beside him. Neither man spoke for several moments. Finally, Raymond handed him a small key. Samuel frowned. "What is this?" "The key to my private vault." The lawyer's eyes widened. "Chief." "Listen carefully," Raymond interrupted. "If anything happens tonight, protect my family for as long as you can." A terrible feeling settled in Samuel's chest. Before he could respond, a loud cry echoed from the delivery room. The baby's first cry. The sound froze everyone. Family members immediately jumped to their feet with excitement. Tears of joy filled their eyes. A new life had entered the world. But at that exact same second, Raymond felt a sharp pain shoot through his chest. His body trembled. The corridor spun around him. And as the doctor opened the delivery room door carrying wonderful news, Chief Raymond Okafor realized the prophecy had begun its final stage. The child had been born, and death was coming for him.